All right, 9:01. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
Some logistics. So this will be our last class in this series. And this is an experiment, and we really want to learn from you. So at the end of our time together, we'll be posting a link for a survey. We would really love the gift of you giving us feedback from that survey. We'll also send a follow-up email with a link to that survey as well. But the more of you who can help us learn and grow, the more grateful we are. And want to let you know about two unique offerings. Well, one unique to this group. We are going to put together some learning circles with some of our CLG staff. So 15 people in a learning circle that will meet over a 6-week period. We have 2 circles going right now. Each of them has about half dozen slots left. It will be first come, first serve. And we'll send you a link as well in the email on how to sign up for those circles. If there's interest, we will start a 3rd circle. If the times don't work for you on the current ones that are there, please let us know. But those are just for people who have been in this program, and also we had another program also going at the same time. So this is a special offering just for this group. We also are going to be offering another course called the Book Club, where Jim and I will go through the first 7 commitments of the book. And so you all are welcome to sign up for that as well. And all this information will also be posted on this course page, along with the recording of this call will be posted there by tomorrow. So those are the logistics. And as usual, we'll keep you guys muted unless there are questions, and Erica will call upon you and Lainey will unmute you. And if you are going to ask questions, and ask that when you're unmuted, be mindful to have your phones and dingers and buzzers all turned off, so we don't get to just hear your voice. And I think that's it for logistics.
Okay, and we are going to open the floor for questions in just a couple of minutes. Any questions you have about what we've covered so far? So you could be thinking about that. I'm just going to give a brief review of what we've covered, and then we'll open it for questions or support, anything you want around anything we've covered so far. All right. So what we're exploring are commitments 8 through 15. And just so if you knew the way these commitments live in my mind, I like to organize things. I like to give them like little cubbies to live in. That helps me. The way I organize these last commitments are that commitments 8 and 9 for me are around my creativity and maximizing my creative expression in the world. So what that means is that if I'm going to live fully creative in the world, obviously I'm going to want to discover my zone of genius and be willing to live in it and to face and deal with all of my limiting beliefs around that. So for me to be in my full creative magnificence, it presupposes that I know what my zones of genius are, and that's where I'm spending most of my time playing. And then if I want to be in this optimal state of creative expression, commitment number 9 and play is essential, because at least in my world, creativity doesn't come through when I'm serious and efforting and trying and, kind of contracted. Creativity tends to come through when I create more spaciousness and more lightheartedness and become more like a child at play. And then also in commitment number 9, we talk about optimizing energetic flow through honoring your patterns of rest and renewal, of sprint and recover. Love that, sprint and recover. So commitments 8 and 9 for me are, what does it look like if I want to maximize my creative expression in the world? Now, the first 7 commitments would relate to that as well, but I feel like we really dial in on commitments 8 and 9. And then commitments 10, 11, and 12, again, as we said last time, these are really getting at the core of what it is to be free, what it is to be liberated, what it is to be enlightened, if you like that term. They're getting at the structures of the identity, ego identity, that are keeping us in a limited consciousness, in the prison of our identity. So, commitment 10, would I be willing to examine all of my beliefs and stories? And would I be willing to see the possibility that I am something before and after all the stories? As Byron Katie says, and Commitment 10 is all about Byron Katie, who would you be without your stories? That is such a wonderful question. Who would you be without your stories? And so that is the commitment around dealing with all the stories that we construct. And then commitment number 11 is a direct practice of realizing through experience. I'm saying all those words because it's not a philosophy or a theory. It's a direct practice of realizing through experience that there is nothing lacking. Because remember, that is built off the Sedona method, and the premise is that suffering comes from the experience of lack. So commitment 11 is all about doing practices that allow you to actually taste the reality that nothing is lacking or missing in you. Again, not as a belief. So, and one of the effects of that is you learn that there's nowhere to go to get what you already have and nothing to do to become what you already are. You're already whole, perfect, and complete. You're already approved of. You're already in the experience of control, and you're already safe and secure, and anything that matters will survive. Again, so those two really get at what I call the taproot of your consciousness. So as you go forward, we highly recommend that at some point you do some deep, disciplined work around the work, capital T, capital W, by Byron Katie. You do some deep, devoted practice and something around liberating yourself from the seeking. That's commitment number 11. We like the Sedona method, but there are many, many other practices that get you there. Because as you do that, you will stabilize yourself more and more in a place of trust and less in a triggered, reactive, threatened consciousness. And you'll know those are working when you start to be able to stay in the now moment and experience that nothing is ever lacking. Especially there's enough. There's enough of everything in this now moment. And I really like to focus people in commitment 13 on time and money, because you could also do it on love and opportunity and creativity. But time and money tend to be the two big things that people believe they don't have enough of. And I just want to double click on that chapter, by the way. In there, we reference some work by Gay Hendricks in his book called The Big Leap, which is largely on living in your zone of genius. But he has a chapter in there on time, which I highly recommend that people read if they want to develop a completely new relationship with time. And the hypothesis, the assertion of the chapter is that you are the source of time. And if you feel like you need more time, you can make time. Now, remember last week I told you I love being captivated by wild ass claims? That's a wild ass claim. I hear people say all the time, you know, the real scarce resource in life is time. It's not money and it's not space. The real thing you can never, I love this, you can never get more of is time. You hear that all the time, right? You hear people say that all the time. Actually, that's an arguable statement. You can start to play with, if you're feeling busy or hurried or at the effect of time, you can do the work and create more time. Now, see, the first time I ever heard Gay say that, I thought that's either one of the most ridiculously exciting claims ever made, or it's total horseshit. I trusted Gay enough at that point to go after the claim. And so through Gay and then through other people who assert the same thing into the world, I've been playing for years about being the source of time. Time is just a concept. It's not actually a thing. And since it's just a concept, through consciousness, you can create all of it that you want. How about that? You never have to be busy again. You never have to be bored or busy. Those are both about your artificial relationship with time. So again, that's just to say there's more in commitment number 13 than we clicked on. We also in commitment number 13 deal with Lynn Twist, who we think is a fabulous articulator in her book, The Soul of Money. So that's in chapter 13. And there you get after the 3 core beliefs. I don't have enough, more is always better, and that's just the way it is. Those are 3 great beliefs around money to explore. So that was
Jim means commitment 12 when he says commitment 13.
I always do. Whenever I say 13, I mean 12. When I say 7, I mean 11. And when I say 2, I mean 6. All right, so that leads us to commitment 13, 14, and 15, where we're going to go today. And what I want to say, the way these live in me, so creativity, the taproot of consciousness, liberation, and freedom, and then this last 3, all for me, talk about how I am dancing with the world. What is the dance that I'm in with the world? Am I dancing with the world as though it's an ally? Am I dancing with the world as though I'm creating win for all? Am I dancing with the world as though I am being and becoming the resolution? So these last 3, as we take it all the way back home, to me are answering the question, how am I dancing with the world? We'll spend time on that today. Okay, so any questions came up for you this past week or anything you want support around related to commitments 6, 9, 3, 42 hike, or whatever it was we did last week? Commitments 11 and 12.
If you have a question, please put it up in the chat and Erica will be pulling questions.
I'm gonna unmute you, Shell.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my question is around, and I did read Change Formula chapter. So my question is, if you have held a belief throughout your life, I'm 63, so it's a long, long time I've held a belief of scarcity, of being insecure. How does one change it despite having strong motivation and despite having enough pain of not changing?
Snap out of it.
As Bob Newhart says, stop it.
Yeah, you have this belief and it does cause you pain, but it doesn't cause you so much pain. Is that what you're saying through the change formula?
Yeah, but some of my beliefs are deep into my body at a cellular level. So I have developed enough part in myself that can override, but my default mechanism holds that belief.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're pointing at 2 really important beliefs that are held in your cellular structure. You're embodying them, and they've been with you for 63 years. One is that there is not enough.
Yeah.
And the other is something around a fundamental insecurity. Is that correct?
Yes, world is not a safe place, yes.
World is not a safe place, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're 63 years old. How old are you going to live to be?
Don't know, but let's say average life expectancy 82, 83, 20 more years.
What are you going to do with the next 20 years?
I want to shed those beliefs. Even if I live for 5 days free from those beliefs, I want to enjoy those 5 days.
It is such a cool answer, because let's say you get 20 more trips around. You get to decide, what is going to matter to me? What am I going to give myself to? And you say, I want to deal with the somatic embodiment of those beliefs. I want to deal with the body.
Mhm.
I want to deal with the belief structures. I want to be free.
Mhm.
Before I breathe that last breath, I would like to have a sustained experience of enoughness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would like to experience the liberation of the freedom from this plaguing insecurity, this sense that I am totally safe and the world is fundamentally friendly. Okay, let's say you said that. Then I would tell you, if that's going to be the big idea of your life, then here's a whole set of things you can do.
Mhm.
So to start to work in the body, you would find a somatic experience therapist, a particular kind of therapy rooted in a guy named Peter Levine, and you would get somebody working on your body to start to unwind the trauma and all that you carry in your body.
Mhm.
I might suggest you consider a medicine journey, to do a plant-based sacred medicine journey, to unwind some of that stuff that's so deeply held. And you know, all the research now is showing that medicines have the possibility of getting at this so fast. So somatic experience work in the body, hands-on work, possible medicine journeys. And then I would say to you, great, let's really get after like the Sedona method. And I would give you specific things to listen to and specific practices to do every day. Because what matters to you most in life is your freedom, your liberation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, you could, if you want, I'm happy to give you specific things to do with
Yeah.
devotion and dedication and discipline so
Yeah.
that you can start to experience the freedom that your soul is craving. Now, if you come back to the change formula, which everybody didn't read, that's the end of the book. It's, I think, one of my favorite chapters in the whole book. People don't overcome their resistance to change unless they have enough pain. So we'd really want to help you explore, what's it costing you to live from scarcity? And what's it costing you to continue to brace against an unfriendly, unsafe world? I'd really want you to feel the pain. And then we'd want to really expand and explode your vision of what liberation could be. So that you feel the pain, you've got a vision, then what that translates into in the change formula is first steps or next action steps to take around these things. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, absolutely. And I love to have those references
Great.
offline. Yeah.
Great. Happy to give you those, because the truth of the matter is, for some people, consciousness or awakeness or liberation or freedom or whatever you want to call it, I don't care. It occurs instantaneously, once and for all and forever. That there are people who record that, Byron Katie would record that, Eckhart Tolle would record that. Others would record that they were just kind of moving through life and all of a sudden they were free.
Yeah.
But that's not most of our experience.
Yeah.
Most of our experience is that we move from to me to by me to through me to as me, which is the liberated state. And we do that actually through devotion and discipline.
Yeah.
So one of the things I always ask people is, how devoted are you willing to be to your freedom? And that's why I asked you, how long are you going to live and what matters to you? And I believe you when you said, I might live 20 more years. And what matters to me is the freedom.
Yeah.
Great. If that's true,
Yeah.
then man, you can move mountains.
Thank you. Thank
Kate,
you so much.
Kate Hudson, who is on our team, is certified in what Jim was describing, and she does work remotely. So you can.
Yeah. I signed up to her circle. That's
Oh, beautiful.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That might be something for those of you who want to explore that. Maybe that's a theme for that circle. So yeah. Erica, any other questions?
Yes. Would you rather have a question about a depressed, unemployed partner or about supporting other people to live in their zones of genius?
Let's do other people, supporting people and living in their zones of genius.
All right, Daniel Balsam, you're the winner of the question asking.
I'm
Okay, go
feeling
ahead, Daniel.
I'm feeling delighted by that honor. Yeah, so we talked about in our first class, the working on the personal, the interiority of getting clear about what we believe is going to be our highest expression of our human potential. But yet we spent very little about how we're going to get all of those surrounding us into their zones of genius, which then will help us rise and keep at the level of performance in life that we so desire. That's why we're in the class. So how are we going to deal with the resistance where we don't come across peddling some sort of quote unquote cultish methodology, or I just simply don't want to change. I'm happy where I am. I don't think I need to live in my zone of genius to be happy.
I like thinking about all these commitments like games. You know, I want to play the game of living in your zone of genius. And there are certain rules of the game that you play. And things like tracking your energy levels and where you have whole body yeses and making sure you're clear on your yeses and your nos. And these are all parts of the game. So whenever I'm introducing these ideas to anybody else, I'm saying to them, hey, I'm learning about this way of doing life that I'm really enjoying, and I'm looking for playmates. Okay. And I want to introduce you a concept, and here's what it looks like, and want to see, is this something that would be interesting to you to explore with me? Is this something that you want to commit to as a game to play? And then we talk about, if we are deciding that we're co-committed, so we both say, yes, we're both going to play this game. Let's just say, we're both going to play basketball. So we're both going to play Zone of Genius. So what are the rules of the game? What are the agreements that we're going to make that are going to make this game friendly for us? So we're going to decide what those agreements are. And we're going to be really clear about those agreements, who will do what by when, who won't do what by when, so that we have real understanding of what that is. And that's up for you to decide what those agreements are going to be, such that it feels friendly. So there's not a, hey, you fouled me. Well, I didn't know that was a foul. I thought, it's like unclear agreements. So bringing it up that way. And there are going to be some people go, nope, don't want to play basketball, not interested. And your job is to decide whether you want to hang out with them if they don't want to play basketball, but don't assume that they should play if they're telling you I don't want to. And it's also important to hold, this game is not the best game. It's just a game, and everybody else is going to choose whatever games they're playing as well. And the moment you just start deciding your game is better, you're going to usually cause a little resistance. So, and you're going to have to grieve, darn, some of the people I really was hoping would want to play the game with me don't want to play, and go put your attention on those who do, and stay out of everybody else's business who doesn't want to play, and trust them. They're playing the games that they want to play for now. In my experience is the best way to get people to want to play is they get excited hanging out with you. Having you embody the game is the best way to be an invitation for others to want to join you.
Yeah, I'll have what he's having.
Right.
That's how I got most of my clients, honestly, in the beginning, is whatever you got going on, like, I like it. It's palpable. I want it. Can I have it? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Daniel, here's a question I'd ask you.
Okay.
Would you be willing to have your life, you get to pick the next word, exclusively, largely, predominantly, populated by people who are committed to living in their zone of genius? Would you be willing to have your life filled with people who are committed to living in their zone of genius?
That's a big question. And as we always ask these questions, we always recommend you breathe that question down through the top of your head and let it trickle through every cell in your being. And don't just answer with your head.
I see how this is a big choice. It's not just about me. This doesn't work with, this is a group exercise. This is about the community, my relationship to others, to life itself, not just some sort of I'm going to leave society, go up into the ashram and meditate all day. That's not what I think this is. So I appreciate that elucidation, and let it bake in a little bit, see where it goes.
Beautiful. For most of us, when you sit in that question, be especially aware of the fear that comes up.
Okay.
Fear will likely rise up around, whoa, would I be willing to have a life filled with people who lived in their zone of genius? Well, what if so-and-so is unwilling to do that? Am I willing to have them move out of my life? If I don't know if there are that many people who want to do this, I might end up alone if I say, there's so many good things that show up. Because as the creator of your life, your consciousness is populating your relational world. It's not about primarily getting them to change. It's primarily about facing your own consciousness about what you're populating your world with. You can do the same with any of these commitments. Am I willing to have a world that is populated relationally by people who don't gossip, by people who don't complain and blame, by people who take responsibility? You get to face into those. So it's not just, like you said, an individual practice. It's, what do I want my relational world to be like? Those were really important for me years ago. And then I started making these decisions. So in my life, I know this is true of Erica and Lainey, my circles are made up of people who play in their zone of genius. It's not that I think everybody ought to do that. It's just who I like to play with. I get so inspired being around people who are in their zone of genius. It's just the game I like to play.
Yeah, and all of us, I think, are very devoted to the question, what am I willing to put at risk for my full aliveness? And part of living in my full aliveness is being in a relationship with others who are as equally committed. Great question. All right, shall we move on? See, next, let's go on to our first of the three commitments we're going to introduce today, which is the commitment around allies. I commit to seeing everything and everyone as an ally in my life, perfectly suited for my learning and growth, versus obstacles. These people are in the way. The situation's keeping me from what I really want, believing somehow that this is not what is ideal for my learning and growth at the moment. So one of the things we'd like you to do is, when we say allies, we don't mean, oh, you're so for me, meaning like you have really good intentions. Your ally doesn't mean you're my friend. Ally doesn't mean you're, this is perfect the way it is. Ally doesn't mean that. Ally means I just get to learn something here. What I might learn is to tell you to hit the road and to find my anger that I haven't been accessing. That might be how this is an ally for me. This scene may be helping me get clear that I'm out of integrity, and this is just an invitation for me to wake back up to my integrity. So it's not always a, quote, positive thing that means I want more of it. So I want to be clear about that distinction around what do we mean by ally. It just means I choose to make this thing a gift so I can learn something. And then the question is, what do I get to learn?
And particularly the learning is around waking up.
context.
Yeah, there might be other learnings as well,
Mhm.
but I choose to see that the world is fundamentally friendly to me waking up. That's the key. So doesn't mean that my boss is an ally to me getting the promotion that I want. Doesn't mean that. It means that my boss is an ally to me experiencing freedom, real freedom, because my relationship with my boss is bringing up places where I'm still contracted. So that's what we mean, an ally for learning in waking up.
So we could think of the coronavirus. How is the coronavirus, sheltering in place, and all the other consequences of this virus, how is this an ally for me waking up? How is all of this related, an invitation for me to find an experience of more freedom, more joy, more peace? So I was thinking, actually, Jim, it might be fun to have that, since we all have that as a shared issue, to have that be in the breakout sessions. So let's just have each of you take a minute here or two to write down or come up with all the ways that you can see how coronavirus, COVID-19, is an ally. And so, if you've lost your job or your income is being reduced, how is that an ally? How is everything related to this in service of waking up for you? Just jot down as many things that's come to your mind. And then Lainey, I think what we'd like to do is put everybody into groups of 3. So if you could start working on that. So what we'd like to do is we're going to put you into groups of 3, and we'd like you to take turns of sharing, here's how this is an ally for me. Here's how aspects of the content of coronavirus is an ally for me. And everybody's going to get 2 minutes to share. And we'd like to have you start with the person with the shortest hair. But you go first, and we'll have Lainey post. She'll keep time, and she'll post on there time to switch to the next person. So Lainey will go ahead and put everybody into groups, and maybe you get inspired by one another's perspectives on how this is an ally.
Okay, here we go. Everybody's coming back.
And being home more, I'm noticing them more.
Okay, so I want to see if anybody has any questions or comments, anything you want to share about exploring allies in relationship to COVID. Erica, let us know if there's anything in particular.
It's all crickets over here.
Okay. I love this. I love this commitment. I just continue to keep using it. I use this every day. I'm always thinking about, how is this an ally? How is this an ally?
A couple of things I want to say about this, see if some questions get generated. Somebody asked, oh, Linda Jackson, hi Linda, by the way, asked the question, if you know our model that we got from Michael Bernard Beckwith, to me, by me, through me, as me, to, by, through, as, how does for me relate? And in my experience, everything in by me, through me, and as me, by me, I'm in creator, through me, I'm a conduit for the flow of life energy into the world. I'm in a surrendered place of co-creation and cooperation. And as me, I'm in a non-dual state. All three of those presuppose that I'm living in for me. All three of those presuppose basic trust. In the diamond approach, the Enneagram, and who's the founder of the diamond approach? Diana, do you remember? Or Facets of Unity is the name of the book.
Almas.
Author is Alma.
A.H. Almas.
A.H. Almas. In his book, Facets of Unity, he writes a chapter entitled Basic Trust that is an incredibly wonderful articulation of what it means to relax into being held and to experience that life is for me. And it's a deep, powerful place to be in the world from. So that's the first thing I want to say. It relates to by me, through me, and as me. The other thing I want to say, as you're developing this willingness, and it's just a willingness, to play with life as though it's for you. That's why I said all three of these commitments answer the question, how am I going to dance with life? And imagine you're out there dancing and you're in sync and you're moving, and all of a sudden your partner steps on your toe. Well, at that point, you can say, oh, get off my toe. You screwed that up. You don't belong on my toe. You belong on your own feet. You know, you messed up the timing, the mood, blah, 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 blah. Or you could say, wow, what can I learn from having my foot stepped on? What if I don't resist that? What if it's an invitation to me to more attention? Or how was I not being with my partner in a way that created a seamless dance? In other words, here's what I'm saying. You get to decide whether you're going to choose to see life as for you or not. In other words, I'm not arguing that it's a philosophical assumption that life is for you. I'm not making it a theological or philosophical or metaphysical proposition that life is for you. Just skip all that for a second. Just you get to pick. Is my partner stepping on my toe? Is that happening to me or is it for me? Is COVID-19 to me or for me? Skip philosophy, theology, metaphysics, anything like that. Just how do you want to play the game? I think that's deeply empowering. Now, in truth, many of us, as we were talking earlier, have such a pain body, as Eckhart Tolle would say, or so much embedded trauma that it's incredibly difficult to relax into life being for me, because I've been so deeply, my experience is I've been so deeply wounded by life that to just take a full breath and fully exhale is a risk. Literally, I don't breathe fully because life feels so fundamentally unsafe. So I want to respect all of you who have some sort of experience like that of life. And I want you to get held, and I want you to get nurtured and supported so that you can start to, in little baby ways, play with, wow, what if life is for me and for my waking up? So 2 things there, how it relates to me, by me, through me, as me, and that it's really a choice. How do you want to play with life?
I like Tessa asked this question. Is it possible to see everyone and everything as an ally too much in a way that it could result in getting harmed? And there is a way all of our content can get weaponized. So I do want to say that there's a way one can, we call it like a spiritual bypass or an intellectual bypass, where I can use this commitment to say, oh, you know, it's just all for me. And I can see all this as an ally. And I use it to just get away from my discomfort. And so I think, yes, you can use any of this content from below the line. So we want to be mindful about, is there any way I'm seeking relief by using this commitment? And if that's true, then I'm trying to hero myself and likely won't create what it is you most want in a sustainable long-term way.
Yeah, let's just be very pointed here. In other words, what life could be bringing to you as you're, quarantined with somebody who speaks to you in unkind, unloving ways, who's harsh, even what, you might call abusive. How could that be for me? Well, it's such a wonderful explanation, by the way. But one of the ways it's probably for you, you'll have to check and see, is that it's an invitation for me to have my no and to say, stop it. Do not speak to me like that. For me doesn't mean that I keep welcoming it. It could be for you to develop your no, your stop. So it's incredibly important. People who understand this dance of by me, through me, and as me, in my experience, are people who have incredibly clear and powerful boundaries and a clear and a powerful no. So I just want to say that.
Yeah, and sometimes I have clients say, well, maybe I should stick around with this person and wait till I can really be non-reactive before I leave the relationship or create more space, as if like that's where their growth will be. And sometimes that might be valuable, but sometimes it's valuable to say, no, I'm going to leave and I can still learn all those things without needing to be in an environment that's abusive, quote abusive.
I think, Jim, that bears repeating what you said or go about, we're not just welcoming every circumstance that comes our way to welcome it to continue. We're welcoming our feelings and reactions. You touched on that, but I think maybe there's a little more you can say that's of support.
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, let's deconstruct this. It begins with you sitting in stillness and starting with a willingness question. We always start with a willingness question. Am I willing to choose to see life as for me? And by the way, I'd give you that as a homework assignment and just tell you, go away and sit with that question for a couple of weeks. And whatever comes up is incredibly valuable. Like some of you might go, no. In fact, hell no. In fact, fuck no. People who do that are weak or, blah, blah, blah. Great, just let all that come up. And then you just land with no. That's great. And then as you continue to play with it, maybe you get to where, yeah, I'm willing to play with life being for me. Okay, so now life starts to occur. First thing I want to say is, I'll just stay with this. Somebody speaks to you in a harsh, aggressive, or moves toward you physically in that way. The first response out of the body from presence might just be to say, stop it. Then, having set a boundary, to go, now get curious. How is that for me? What is that here to teach me? So it doesn't mean that I just keep absorbing all that life is giving me. It means that I'm in a dance of creative cooperation and learning. And for some of you, the learning is around having your no and having boundaries. And by the way, I do want to say, because some of you might be on this journey, for some of you, it might mean that you do stay and breathe while somebody talks to you that way. And you actually learn the deep lesson that this is nothing more than air passing over vocal cords, moving through the air, resonating on eardrums. That's all it is puffs of air. So I say this because the journey can be very different for all of us. For some of you, it's finding your no. For others of you, it's learning that speech, for example, and what might be even called abusive speech, are just puffs of air. Diane and I were in a program. I love this. One of the things we did, just so we could learn this, is you thought of the worst thing you could ever imagine anybody saying to you. This is a fun exercise. And then we did it in foursomes. And you'd stand in the middle, and the other three people would stand around you, and they would just keep saying that to you. The worst thing you could imagine anybody ever saying to you. And your goal was, first of all, notice how you contracted. And by the way, for some of us, these were core things.
Yeah, I think it was like, Jim, you are so selfish and unloving.
That's exactly right. That was a big one for me. Another one was, you're a complete fraud. God, I love that. Because I had this big imposter syndrome going on for many, many years. And I just couldn't imagine somebody seeing that I was a complete fake and a fraud. And I had a big fake fraud part of me. I didn't want it to be called out. So the practice was that you would say it, and then you'd pause. You'd tell them, just pause for a second. Let me feel it in my body. And the body would contract. And then it was a breathing exercise. So you'd breathe and come back to presence. And we added creative movement. So you'd breathe and move. And then I'd say to Diana, say it again.
You are a complete fraud.
And I really want her to say it like she means it, like in a way that would undo me. And then Erica would say it, and Lainey would say it, and Diana would say it. And I start to get over it. I breathe, come back. And we did this, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, you'd stand there. Mm-hmm. And if you do your work, eventually you're just moving, and all you hear is puff, puff, puff. Still words, but just puffs of air, just puffs of air. And I can breathe and move and be with that which I thought would undo me, that which I would have called cruel, harsh, mean, abusive, and it doesn't mean anything. So I want to speak to two sides of this continuum. Some of you need to say stop to abusive language. And some of you need to breathe and get that it's just puffs of air. I don't know what your path is, and all along that continuum. But if you get into a for me dance with life, that life is for you, you can sit and listen. You can get with trusted friends, and you can learn, how do I want to be with what this is doing for me? Some of you, if life is for you, one of the things it's doing is it's teaching you that you have too much attachment to the material world. And so you know what your practice is? Not only do you need to lose your job, you need to zero out your bank account and learn what it's like to live into a moment trust. One of the things I want to say about commitment number 13 is there's a huge difference between scarcity and simplicity. Number 13 was about scarcity, not enoughness. One of the great learnings in life is, what's the difference between simplicity and scarcity? Being able to make that distinction. I heard Boyd Vardy say on his podcast last week, life tells us a truth and a lie. Here's a truth. On a cold night, a warm bowl of soup and a nice wool blanket will comfort you. 1,000 more cups of soup and 1,000 more blankets won't make you 1,000 times more happy. That is fucking good. What if COVID is here to teach us the difference between scarcity and simplicity? So some of you need to give all your money away, and some of you need to know how to make a mint. You don't know what your journey is. You just don't know. We get to be in that dynamic dance with life. And my journey isn't your journey and vice versa, but we can play together. Okay. Notice I'm excited.
Yay. Okay, so let's move on
Yes.
to win for all. And how about, Jim, you start us off with
Okay.
some clarity around that commitment.
All right. This is the category. How do you want to dance with life? From below the line, here's the way you're going to dance with life. There's scarcity. So therefore, life is a zero-sum game. Everything I get is something you don't get. Everything you get is something I can't have. There's scarcity. Then there's a zero-sum game. Now, from those two assumptions, scarcity and a zero-sum game, I either compete with you, which is win-lose, or I cooperate with you, I compromise with you, which is lose-lose. So now that last statement is a wild-ass statement. So here's the assumption here. From below the line, scarcity, there's not enough. Like there's not enough love and appreciation. So if you get love and appreciation, I'm not getting it. So therefore, you get it, I don't get it. It's a zero-sum game. There's only enough love and appreciation for one of us to get what we need. This is what happens in a lot of couplenesses. And therefore, we're going to compete for attention. We're going to compete for appreciation. Lose-lose. I mean, win-lose. Or we're going to compromise. We in CLG are not big fans of compromise. We see its place in the world, and we understand those who think it's an incredibly valuable way to go. We just call it lose-lose. Neither of us gets what we want because it's built on there's not enough and it's a zero-sum game. So it's either going to be win-lose. We don't want to do that. That's like too barbaric or something. So let's do lose-lose. We'll both take a hit. But what if instead we decide to explore that there's more than enough? And what if we decide to explore that it's not a zero-sum game? And these are big, in my mind, liberating philosophical concepts. So from here, I start to play with how can I get what I most want? And I'll speak to our team. And Diana can get what she most wants. And Erica can get what she most wants, and Lainey can get what she most wants. I look around the screen, I see Jim Fallon, and I see Jack Craven, I see Dave Cash and Deb Katz, people on our team. We do this all the time. How can we get what we want? So win for all. Now, if you're going to play the win for all game, I want to say two more things about it. First, you have to be clear what it is you most want. So Diana and Erica are the kind of the managing partners of Conscious Leadership Group. When we're in a conversation, one of the things I assume that Diana and Erica are doing their work to know what it is that they most want. So if I said to them, we're exploring, whether or not we're going to do such and such, and I can say, Erica, what do you most want? What lights you up? And in a trusting, above the line relationship, she does her deep work to see what it is that would bring her the most delight around this particular issue. And Diana does the same thing, and I do the same thing. So you begin by everybody articulating what it is that they most want. Got that? So it presupposes clarity. By the way, that's not a simple assumption, that you know what it is that you most want. So you got to kind of fumble your way to that. Now, once you get clear about what it is that you most want, here's the way the game gets played in actuality. Take the three of us. We're trying to decide how we're going to do something. And, there's some tension, a little bit of, well, Well, we could go with compete. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. We could go with compromise, lose, lose. Or we take a breath, get into there's enough. We don't have to carve up the pie. We can expand the pie. Now, Diana and Erica, tell me what it is that you most want. Now, when we get into the actual conversation, here's the game I play. The game I play is, how can I get Erica and Diana everything they want? My responsibility is to stand for them getting what they want.
And then over here, I say, how do I make sure Jim and Erica get what they want? I'm totally in devotion to them getting their needs met.
And Erica.
Erica, who might, can you talk, Erica?
Yes, yes. And I look inside and ask myself, how can I get Jim and Diana everything they want and more? I would say we all actually add the and more.
Yeah.
What's it like? Just try that on. Try it on in your intimate relationship. What's it like if you choose to move out of the scarcity belief into a sufficiency belief? What's it like if you choose to not play win-lose or lose-lose? What's it like if you choose in your intimate coupleness to say, there's more than enough? Now tell me, lover, what is it you most want? And you listen so deeply and profoundly that you understand their deepest longing, their greatest want. Then they ask you the same question. And then here's what you say. Okay, here's what you can do. You can trust me to stand for you getting what you want. Do you see how this presupposes this for me mindset? The universe is for me. And the other is just a placeholder for the universe being fundamentally friendly. And then what comes out of that conversation where you choose to move from sufficiency to not lose-lose or win-lose into win-win? And now here's my experience, having played this game for years with these two and others, is the creative juices that get unleashed to brainstorm, to co-create things that are totally out of the realm of availability to you if you're playing a zero-sum game and a win-lose or a lose-lose. You access a whole different way of playing with life when you decide to play win for all. Now, this is where you can play win for all with people who want to play win for all. This is the one place where we come back to, you've got to be committed to win for all. Because if I'm playing win for all and you're playing win-lose, it's like Prisoner's Dilemma, that old game. You know, if you're playing red and I'm playing blue, then I got to play red because that mindset. The same thing here. You got to get a clear agreement up front. Are we going to play win for all? Are we going to play sufficiency? Are we going to play co-creation? Are we going to play tell me your deepest longing, which is an incredibly vulnerable thing to do, and then I'm going to stand for you getting what it is you most want. So is that good, Diana? That's a description of this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so let's just check in with some questions around this commitment. What are your core questions?
A lot of the questions are about what you just shared about how do you do this with people who aren't up in for the win for all game. There's several questions on that. There's many questions on that.
Well, while you're bringing it up, here's the first thing I always say. Would you be willing to stop seeing scarcity and see sufficiency? By the way, in my world, there's a difference between sufficiency and abundance. I like what Lynn Twist does here. There's scarcity and then there's sufficiency. There's enough. There's enoughness. Would you be willing to stop playing the scarcity zero-sum game? Before you go wondering, how do I play this game with other people who don't want to play? This is a big fucking idea. I'd want to ask you before we answer that question, are you fully willing to play this game? You know, before you go messing around with the business associate who doesn't want to play this game, or, you know, you're somebody in your supply chain management, would you be willing to play this game? Isn't that a fun question? Because if you go, well, I'll play if you'll play, that's come back over to yourself. So I always ask that, would you be willing to play? Second, would you be willing to play this game? Find 2 or 3 playmates who will play it with you. You don't need the whole world playing the game at the beginning. Would you just be willing to find a couple of people who will play this game with you? So before we talk about what to do over there, I like to say, would you be willing to play it? Again, sufficiency, not scarcity, and not a zero-sum game, and not win, lose, or lose, lose. And then would you be willing to have a couple of people who play? Now, if you have yes to all that, then I recommend a conversation that goes like this. Hey, here at our company, we choose, I love what Diana says all the time, we just play, we find a game that we really find enjoyable. It's called Win for All. And the way the game gets played is this. We're going to believe that there's enough for all of us. And we're going to believe that co-creation is better than competition and compromise. And what that looks like, the way we play the game is this, around contracts, the way we play the game around allocation of resources. Here's the way we play the game. It's going to require that you tell us honestly and openly what it is that you really want. What's your end game? Right? It's like, you know, I would play this when I would buy a car, and I would say, listen, all I want you to do at the dealership, I say, just tell me what it is that you most want. And I'll tell you what it is that I most want. Let's see if we can find a way to a friendly resolution where we both get what it is that we most want. Now, see, again, that presupposes that you're coming from this place of really wanting to know what somebody wants. So you can start to have conversations with people that look like there's another way to play the game. In our company, we like to find partners who will play the game this way with us. Would you be willing to do that? Doesn't mean we won't necessarily work with you or partner with you if you won't play the game. We just want to know, are we playing compete? Are we playing compromise? Or are we playing co-create? Give them this chapter in the book and say, this is a gating issue for us when we form partnerships in the business world. Have everybody in your team read it at work and say, what would it look like to play this game? Play this game on a low risk level first. Don't play it in the biggest issues in your life. Play it on a low risk level. Like if we ever get to work in the same building again, you know, one of the things that usually comes up with teams is who sits where, and even in open space, who sits where and how do you get to do this and what do you most want? What if you sat around and said, what do you most want in your work environment? And somebody says, I like to be right in the middle of things where I can feel the action. Somebody says, I gotta be on the periphery with a good set of headphones because I just go batshit crazy whenever you. What do you most want? I want to sit next to Diana. Great, let's all get out what we want and then let's turn our brains loose on, if there's enough, how could we co-create that? Let's play that game. And in my experience, people like playing that game. Not everybody, but a lot of people like playing that game. Those would be some of the response I'd have, Erica, just to some of what you said.
I want to give you an example because I see some things around here. My husband is a pilot, and he says, I want access to my own plane. And so that would be like my dream come true. And I say, I want a bank account that doesn't go put $100,000 into buying a plane. And I like to have that money there for our retirement instead. So it looks like we're at an impasse. It could look like this, how are we going to figure this out? So from above the line, I start going, I want you to have access to a plane you can fly whenever you want it. And I have no idea how to make that happen. And he says, I want to make sure we have plenty of money for our retirement. And so our job is to start going out into the unknown. God, I wonder how you could have a plane to fly and we have that money saved in the bank. I wonder how that could happen. And usually the first answer is, I have no idea. And that's exciting. That's where you're wanting to walk into the I don't know. And can you start to wonder? And we have a wonderful video on wondering. Wondering is asking a question that is bigger than yourself. My head can't figure this out. So it's not a question I'm going to ask. It's like I'm going to sit inside of a big possibility. I wonder how that could happen. breathe, relax, let it be okay to not know for a period of time. And then what started to happen is innovative ideas started to pop up. I wonder if there's somebody out there who would share a plane. I wonder what it could look like for you to not have to spend much money but have a plane whenever you want it. So we started asking those questions and sitting in it, and then all kinds of new ideas about how that might get generated. And now we're in a place where our money still sits in that bank investing, and he's got his plane, and we both won. So, but in the beginning, it looks like especially if you're still below line, it'll look like there's no way. It's an either or.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I never look at the chat thing because I distract myself. But while you're talking, I was looking at this. Most of these questions that I'm tracking, like what if 3 people want to sit next to Diana, or what if, your offer is below market value? I just want to tell you that those questions are being asked from a scarcity mindset. You're imagining in this world of space, there's only 2 seats next to Diana, and so therefore 3 people can't all sit next to Diana. You have done what I'm telling you is the first assumption of win, lose, or compromise. There's not enough space. Well, you go, wait a minute, you crazy guy. There are limitations. You're just arguing for your commitment to scarcity. It's okay. We just want to catch that. The big game, and by the way, this is commitment 14, not 1, not 2, not 6. It's the second to the last one. It presupposes a whole lot that's come before. So if you read this and you go, God, I thought the rest of these commitments are kind of stupid, but I really like this one. I'm going to go give this a whirl in life. Have fun. It presupposes some mastery around being able to source approval, control, and security from the inside. It presupposes knowing what your genius is. It presupposes mastery of candor, commitment number 4. It presupposes radical responsibility. It presupposes a whole lot. And when you start, if you find yourself, when you ask the question, being in an either-or mindset, either-or is always representative of being below the line. It's not bad. It's just representative of being below the line. So by the very nature of the questions that are popping up here, by the way, they're great questions. They're just coming from a consciousness that is not yet available to the unknown. It's okay. You just go back and explore. Am I still seeing scarcity? There's not enough money, time, space, energy. Then just see that.
Yeah. I love that we're coming to this right now as we get to these last few commitments. And this is so common, right? And the minds get stirred, our minds get stirred. And the reminder for all of us, myself included, or especially, if you just come always back to where am I? Even before commitment 1, 2, 3, 7, where am I? That's a forever ongoing. Where am I asking this question from? And to just be with that when the mind's arguing. We never advance out of that, You never age out of doing pliés when you're a ballerina, so same thing here.
All right, I believe we ought to move on to the last commitment. I commit to being the resolution of that which I see missing in the world. I commit. So this is so simple. I'm sitting there having a conversation and I have a judgment. You're not listening to me. Listening is missing. So rather than getting over there complaining about the listening missing, I ask, would I be willing to become the listening that I experience missing? So I listen more. And as I listen more to this person, I start to then get that thing that's missing. In my listening of them, I learn, I understand, and then I understand where they're coming from, that I experience them not listening to me. So this is a practice of stop asking the world to show up and provide the thing, be the thing yourself. And see what happens. So you could use, like Jim was saying around time, I experience that there's not enough time. Would I be willing to be the source of time that I experience missing? There's all different ways to play around with this commitment. So what's something that you think is missing, something that's not here? And would you be willing to be that resolution? Would you be willing to become that thing? This is where a lot of the master teachers talk about, before you go try to change the world, go do your inner work first. Be the change you want to see. Because to the extent that your consciousness is in that scarcity mindset, believing it can't be here, you'll continue to co-create that with the world around you.
You can start real basic here. Just think about a relationship in your life and pick a relationship where there's something that you're complaining about. Some way you want that person to be different than they are. Everybody think of one thing. One relationship where it doesn't mean you're complaining all the time, but you have kind of a complaint about that person. What's your complaint? They don't what? They are too what?
I wish they would be more what?
I did this morning. One of the people in our community up here, I noticed, I was telling Debbie when we were checking in with each other this morning, I said, that person is really controlling. Was my experience of the person. So what would it mean to be the resolution when I look out there and I see somebody is really controlling? Okay, the first move is this. How am I controlling? And by the way, you don't have to be like a psychologist. I'm controlling in that I want that person to be different than they are. That's at least one place I'm controlling, right? So I'm wanting what looks like is missing in the world is this person being more cooperative for the whole. So then I come back over here and I say, how can I today be more cooperative for the whole and less imposing of my control plan on the whole? And I sit in that question. So now instead of being over in that person's business and imagining they're being controlling, I own my own controllingness. It's just projection. I own my own. And then I ask, how could I be more inclusive of the whole in this community that we're playing in and more tuned into the whole? And I don't necessarily have an answer to that right away. I just want to sit in the question today. Because now the attention has come back to me being the resolution instead of over there fiddling around in that other person's business.
And then what happens is, as Jim starts to get curious about that, he starts to practice becoming that, and he comes back and shows up in the community that way. And what more often happens is that he's embodying the thing, and that way he's being often can invite others to want to join him. He's much more likely to have others become that thing with him if he is role modeling it, if he is being it, that has us all come and get attracted to that. Much more likely to create change.
That's often what, Gandhi and Martin Luther King, that their power is attributed to that, is being that what they're asking others. Their beingness is an invitation to join.
Like I just noticing somebody put up, I wish so-and-so would listen and stop trying to solve my problems. That's such a good one. It's got two parts to it, right? So would you be willing to be listening. Just start there. Especially listen to that person who you think isn't listening. And by the way, what I mean there is, like, would you be willing to listen to them at deeper and deeper and deeper levels? Genuinely get them. And then the other part was, I wish they'd stop trying to, fix me, solve my problems. Well, can you feel that you're trying to fix them, make them a better listener? So would you be willing to come back from that? Quit trying to change or fix them. That's you being the resolution. There's much more to this. I think the chapter would do a good job of really expanding this out, but this is a great place to begin.
I love this question. What if this is about someone speaking harshly or abusively? What is missing is kindness, and you react with staying kind, but nothing seems to change. I somebody was plus oneing around that. I have this thought. Part of what you have stories about what is kind. So it could be fuck off, could actually be really kind. And we'll have stories about good, bad, right, wrong, kind, mean, blah, blah, blah. So you have to go practice opposite of stories to make sure that you're unwound around all that, so you can actually tune in to know what is the resolution.
Yeah, we're back to commitment number 10 again, as you're going to start playing with this. And again, I want to speak to some of you who are at the place you can hear this. If somebody says to me, so on and so forth, is speaking to me abusively, I say, is that a fact or a story? We're back to commitment number 10. Well, anytime you say somebody is speaking abusively, that is a story. It is not a fact. Everybody stay with me here. Like, the fact is, they said, go fuck yourself. The fact is, those phonemes came out of the mouth. And the fact is, they were at a certain decibel level. That's abusive language. That's a story. And would you be willing to see that the opposite of your story could be as truer than your story? This is the deep work. I need somebody to speak to me kindly. Kind is a story. And as you get liberated from your stories, and by the way, I want to say it again because I'll just keep saying it over and over again, you can say to the person, stop talking to me like that. It doesn't mean you take it, but you don't ask them to stop because you're righteously correct that they're being abusive. By the way, many of you in your minds go right now, wait a minute, I can find 100,000 people who agree that that's abusive. Finding a bunch of people who agree with you doesn't make a story true. It's still a story. It's just a story that a bunch of people hold. You don't have to go very far into our history in the United States to find that there were stories that people held and they thought they were true just because a bunch of people held it. That's not liberation. So again, ending in the deep end of the pool here, because this is beyond fundamentals, all those stories you have around things that are sacred to you, like abuse. Now, again, first go do your somatic experiencing work, do the deep work on unwinding your trauma. And then at some point, do the work over here so that you're free from this, from being trapped by your story.
So we want to reiterate these last commitments. It assumes that you're saying yes to all the other commitments that have come before it. So if you're not practicing those, these aren't necessarily going to create what it is you most want in your liberation. So make sure you go back. Am I letting go of being right? Am I feeling my feelings? Am I doing all these things before I come to being the resolution? All righty.
All right.
They're coming close to the end here. Want to give people an opportunity is there any last burning question that you have as we finish up our course? Any last comments you want to make?
I think it might be a good moment to unmute everybody. I feel voices and sounds wanting to come through.
Great. Great. And we want to just highlight.
Before you do, Erica, in terms of next actions.
Yeah.
Yes, Diana, take us.
Yeah, I was just going to remind everybody that there is going to be a link up for completing the survey. We really, again, ask that you do that if you have a few minutes. It's purposely made it very short. And also want to make sure you do know about all the offerings that will be on the course page for you about what's next. We're experimenting a lot right now, so we're really excited to see these learning circles working. We might be offering more and more of these kinds of services. So please keep giving us feedback about what you want as well, as we're continuing to create products. That's all I have for next steps.
Okay. Unmute everybody. Say hello, goodbye, love you, hate you, whatever comes out of your mouth as well.
It's all love over here.
Thank you. Love you.
Everyone.
Blessings.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Love you.
Hi, Jack Craven.
Oh, I'm gonna miss it.
Bye, Jim. Thank you, Sharon.
Good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks all for playing with us.
See you soon.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you, everyone. I'll
Jack.
see you at future things.
Yes. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.
Really enjoyed this a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Many blessings. Spread the
Thanks
love.
for being here, Judy.
I will be back.
Nice to see everyone's face. Lovely to see you, Diana. I'm ready for the work. It's time, honey.
Oh, hi, Marie-Jean.
It's time. I feel it. I feel it. It's time.
Yay.
Finally. Woo. Mwah.
All in perfect timing. Mwah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, baby.
Yep.
Okay. Love you all. Bye.
Love you too.
Bye, Diana.
Bye.